Man, I cannot say enough how it's so weird to be talking about the virus again. Remember, we did go that little short period of time where for about a few weeks where we weren't talking about it because of the rioting and the protests and everything that they lectured us about. The same people that had been lecturing us went right back on it. The hack health officials and experts said it was perfectly fine for them to be protesting and so forth. This is important. And now we're back to talking about this. I'm going to remind y'all on all forms of my social media. I'm going to continue to remind you guys that at the end of the day, the survival rate for COVID-19 is well over 99%. How do you say well over 99%? It is not over. It is over 99%. And I say that, and I think a lot of people get it confused because, again, they're all in on apocalyptic viruses. They just watch stats. They just look at the counters and the statistics. So they say, well, it's not 99%. Isn't it like 90% or something? No, it's not. It's 99%. Generally, every single study has confirmed that in virtually every single country. I believe when you look at the confirmed rates in hard hit countries that have like a higher percentage in terms of the confirmed deaths versus the confirmed like infected, right? Confirmed infected, confirmed cases is what they say. Like Belgium, they still have under a 1% death rate in that regards. When you look at that survival rate, you can't just depends on obviously the denominator and numerators that you're using, but you can't just sit up here and take the confirmed cases and the confirmed deaths. You have to look at the infected fatality rate. This is how they determine numbers for other viruses and deaths from it, such as flu. They don't just sit up here and take the confirmed ones and the others and say, oh, this is the percentage doing the division and so forth. That's not how it works. What you need to do in order to grab the percentages, you have to account for this. This is actual science. This is what epidemiologists and so forth do. And pretty much every single one, even in our hardest hit spot out here in New York City, which I've done a video on, I have a study in the link in that description. If you want to check that out, 0.7 was the highest that it got in New York City. So you're talking about a 0.7%. That means 99.3% chance of survival. Look, this is just what it is. And I'm going to show you guys what it is here. This is John Ioannidis. Of course, what he did was the infection. This is the title: the infection fatality rate of COVID-19 inferred from seroprevalence data. What he basically does is they get, of course, this. They do get the other studies that a lot of other ones had done, doctors and so forth, scientists, excuse me. If you look at John Ioannidis, he's one of the people who was part of the first like big antibody study that was done out in Stanford, because he's Stanford. This was LA. You had the LA County study was another one that happened pretty early on that basically read the same thing. And what this was telling us early on in this epidemic or pandemic, what it was telling us was that it's a lot more infected than what we generally understand. Which is a good news in the sense that it means that the death rate is going to be brought down significantly. So it's not as deadly as what they initially thought. Him and a lot of the others at Stanford University. This is the Santa Clara. That's what I was thinking. Santa Clara County. John Ioannidis was part of this. He's one of the leading epidemiologists in the world. And I will, again, put this in the description. And this is what it says. Objective to estimate the infection fatality rate of coronavirus disease 2019 from data seroprevalence studies. Methods, population studies, sample size of at least 500. So he's telling you basically which studies that he's referencing as peer-reviewed papers or preprints, yada, yada. So here's what it is. Results from the 23 studies were identified with usable data. So they took the 23 studies of again, I'll link this. You can check it out. Seroprevalence estimates range from 0.1% to 47%. Infected fatality rates, which is, again, how you're going to need to determine it, is 0.02, range from 0.02 to 0.86%. Median, 0.26%. This is why I say over 99%. And corrected values range from 0.02% to 0.78%. Now, among people under the age of 70 years old, infection fatality rate ranged from 0.00% to 0.26%. So people in my age group, 0.00% to 0.26%, with a median of 0.05, corrected 0.00 to 0.23%. Most studies done in pandemic epicenters and the few studies done in locations with more modest death burden also suggested lower infection fatality rates. Conclusion: the infected fatality rate of COVID-19 can vary substantially across different locations, and this may reflect differences in population. That's true. Population age, structure, and case mix of infected and deceased patients, as well as multiple other factors. Estimates of infection fatality rates inferred from seroprevalence studies tend to be much lower than original speculations made in early days of the pandemic. So what he is saying essentially is that this is what you're looking at as far as the infected fatality rates. When you're talking about under the age of 70 years of age, it is very, very low. You're talking about ranging from 0.00% to 0.26%. Statistically insignificant. I don't care what you say. Yes, death sucks, but to sit here and treat us all like we're 90 years of age, which is the people that get hit the hardest, is insane. CDC had already confirmed this as well. Now, a lot of folks say because they have to move the goalposts again or move it back, or they say, well, wait a minute. What about the hospitalizations? That's the important thing. You may not die, but you may be in the hospital. Another statistically insignificant thing here, when we're talking about folks that are within that particular age demographic, such as myself. This is coming from the CDC. These are the key updates going into June 27th, 2020. The overall cumulative COVID-19 hospitalization rate is 102.5 per 100,000. So that's 1%. With the highest rates in people aged 65 and older, 306.7 per 100,000. And 50 through 64 years of age is 155. So obviously it goes up the older that you are, but you're talking about the hospitalization rate per 100,000 is 102. So out of every 100,000 people that are within my age group, you're 102 of you guys, if you end up getting infected, will be hospitalized. And I'm willing to bet the vast majority of them are going to have issues, comorbidities, and underlying illnesses and so forth. You know who you are. Look, this is what the data says. I've been covering this for months. A lot of people want to treat this like it's an apocalyptic virus, and they are holding people hostage in the process. And it's unacceptable. They're holding people hostage. They're holding their businesses hostage. They're holding their livelihoods hostage for a virus that has an over 99% survival rate for the vast majority, well, in general, but definitely when you consider folks under the age of 70, as we just pointed out, you're talking about 0.0%, depending on what part of the country that you're in. But it's over 99% in terms of your likelihood to survive this. That should be great news unless you're in on doom and gloom. And then when you mention that, there's going to be another one. What about the long-standing issues that a lot of people are going to have? Show me the data that highlights this, because there's about what made you tweeted at me and so forth. People take these isolated events and they say, well, this is representative of the entire demographic. Just like everybody covers, every time some young person ends up getting sick or dies from it, they cover that. Look at this young person. Look at this person that was healthy, and they're statistical outliers. Show me the data, by all means, that highlights that the vast majority of the people that get this are going to have some long-standing issues that's going to just completely ruin their life. Show me the data on it. Don't show me the just outliers, because believe it or not, pretty much every disease that deals with, there's a respiratory disease, you may have long-standing issues if you catch it bad. That goes for the cold, getting your lungs scarred up and so forth. That goes for flus, like influenza and so forth. Of course, it can happen. Stop treating this like it's apocalyptic. It's not. And that should be great news, unless you are, again, an authoritarian and you're just looking to control people. And that's where we're at here. We're at the point to where People think that it's perfectly fine because they're scared. They're forcing you to cover your face. They've shut your businesses down. They've done all of this for the sake of a virus that has a 99% survival rate. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. And I don't understand why people get so upset when you bring it up, because they're all in on doom and gloom. And this is my assumption, right? The way I analyze this, my analysis. A lot of people need to be heroes. A lot of people need to signal. And the worse that this is, the more it looks like they are doing something. We live in this sort of odd world where people got to feel like they are part of something. And if this is an apocalyptic virus and they force people to cover their face, they get to set it up as if, well, we're saving lives. No. What you're doing is silly. It's something that we've never done basically in modern history for something with this high of a survival rate. It makes no sense. The reaction doesn't seem to make sense. You put 40-some million people out of work. Hospitals across the nation have been laying people off. Doing all of this because, we're not having elective procedures. Hospitals are basically barren. People aren't coming for the other issues to get treated and so forth. This is insane. Like I said, there was a target demographic from the get-go. You can look at videos I did, 3-4 months ago, talking about this when we had the early data, the Chinese numbers, the South Korean numbers, the Italian numbers. And we had all that data, and all that data pointed to the same thing. If you are old and if you have health issues, you are going to struggle with this. Yet they treated all of us as if we're the same. And what they did when they did that, I did a video talking about this. You let breakouts and such happen in the most vulnerable spots because you're worried about us. The most vulnerable spots, such as nursing homes. Those are the people that are primed to have issues. They have underlying issues. They're old. They have so many different problems. Yet because you're focusing on everybody else, it's a political toy right now. We're focusing on everybody else instead of the ones that you should have been allocating resources to. That's why this is an economic issue. This is not just a scientific issue. This is not just for doctors. You don't just sit up here and rely on what the doctors say. The doctors aren't economists. At minimum, you think they both be working together, not just, well, the doctor said this, we got to do that. They can't account for allocation of resources. That's not what they do. You would have thought, okay, we can't be everywhere at once. It's not enough for everybody everywhere. How can we minimize the damage? Okay, we know that there's a target demographic of people that are most likely to struggle with this. How about we focus on them? Not funneling people with the virus into the nursing homes. How about we focus on protecting them? Building up these creative sort of elaborate schemes to ensure that the people that are working with them don't get it, and the people obviously that are in the nursing homes don't get it, because you can see a very big significant percentage of the people that have died from this are old, and they broke out in nursing homes or from nursing, not just old, they are from nursing homes. What are we doing? And you got all them people killed. And they try to blame folks like us because I'm like, yeah, I'm against mask mandates. Of course, I'm against mask mandates. I don't care if it's, nobody gets to, and I'm reiterating this in my previous videos, nobody gets to fall back on this idea of, well, it's just a cloth or it's just a mask or something like that. You have held the country hostage for 4 months. You don't get to play that. You've been insane this entire, no, absolutely not. It's not just a mask. The data does not seem to align with the reaction. Why? That's where you have to put your tinfoil hat on and do it. I have to hear it all out because none of this makes sense. We've never done this. We understand that there's a risk every single person in the world takes if they live among other people. And definitely in this country, you may get sick. That's not a new thing. That's not something that's going to stop happening prior to COVID or after COVID-19 is done with. The data, and you know that people don't even care to watch the data. All they're doing is watching tickers because all they're doing is taking the confirmed cases and the confirmed deaths and saying, whoa. And they'll move the post depending on who you're talking to. First it's about the deaths, then it's about the cases, it's about the hospitalizations. Lord knows, it's about flattening the curve. they move the post, and then they'll go back on everything they lectured you about social distancing when it comes to protests and stuff. It's a completely rigged game. But the fact that people just look at the confirmed cases and the confirmed deaths lets you know that they don't actually care to even understand this from a scientific standpoint. They don't care to look at biostatistics. They don't care to look at what the epidemiologists are saying in terms of the infected fatality rate, which is how you actually determine who's surviving this. You don't just take the confirmed and the confirmed deaths and the confirmed cases, especially for something that you know is infecting a lot of people that will absolutely never go to the hospital. It makes no sense to do that. So why would you include them in a survival rate when you know, factually speaking, that there's a big block of people that will never, ever need to go to the hospital? I just showed you the COVID-19, the rates. You're talking about per the overall cumulative COVID-19 hospitalization rate is 102.5 per 100,000. When it comes to age groups, what is it? That's all the age group. That's the overall age group. I wonder what it is in terms of. I wonder exactly what it is in terms of like under the age of 65. This CDC website is a mess, so good luck finding that. But it's not just that with the hospitalizations, per 100,000. It's not just that, but also with the fact that that a lot of folks that are asymptomatic, a lot of people are going to have mild symptoms. They were telling you that long ago. They were telling you that 3-4 months ago. So if you know that, why would you just look at the confirmed cases if there's people that are just going to get sick and stay at the house, or people that don't even feel sick? It's mind-boggling, man, why so many people treat this like an apocalyptic virus, because the data does not align with that position.